What if I told you the biggest bombshell in hip-hop drama just dropped? Jim Jones didn't just clap back. He unleashed the full tape that could end Chrissy's husband's entire reputation forever. This isn't a rumor, it's raw evidence. And the streets are already buzzing. Betrayal, lies, and receipts. This is the final blow no one saw coming. The rap world just got hit with a bombshell, and this one is shaking the culture to its core. Jim Jones has officially crossed the line between personal vendettas and public humiliation, and fans cannot believe what he's done. For months, rumors have been swirling about tension between Jim, his longtime partner Chrissy Lampkin, and the mysterious shadow her husband allegedly cast behind the scenes. But now Jim Jones has taken it to an entirely different level. He dropped a full tape, uncut and unedited, and it's not just a simple clip or random leak. No, this tape is pure destruction, targeting Chrissy's husband in a way that has the internet exploding with reactions. Let's rewind. This isn't the first time Jim Jones has used his voice, his platform, and his influence to throw jabs at the people closest to him. Over the years, Jim has had his share of beef with former friends and industry associates, but when it comes to family drama, things always hit harder. Chrissy Lampkin has stood by Jim for decades, through cheating rumors, through his rap feuds, and through love and hip-hop cameras documenting their roller coaster relationship. But this time, Chrissy isn't the one in the hot seat. It's her husband, a man whose reputation was already rocky, now facing total annihilation after Jim pulled out the final blow. So, what's actually on this tape? That's what everybody's been asking since the moment it hit the blogs and social feeds. From the very first second, Jim made sure there was no mistaking what viewers were hearing. No edits, no voiceovers. Just raw audio and video of Chrissy's husband saying and doing things that could completely dismantle any credibility he had left in the streets, the business world, and the industry. And Jim didn't just upload this tape quietly. He made it an event. He teased it. He posted cryptic messages online about snakes getting exposed and truth always winning in the end. Then, like clockwork, the tape dropped, and chaos followed. Fans immediately started dissecting the contents. Some claimed it showed Chrissy's husband making shady deals with people Jim warned her about. Others said there were personal conversations that revealed deep betrayals, not just against Chrissy, but against Jim himself. Whatever the case may be, the damage was undeniable. People who had once defended Chrissy's husband were suddenly silent, while those who doubted him from the start flooded comment sections saying, "Way, we told y'all." And let's not forget the timing of this whole thing. Jim Jones didn't just drop this tape randomly, he did it when emotions were already at a boiling point. Rumors of arguments between Jim and Chrissy had been swirling. Fans were questioning whether their engagement, which has dragged on for years without a wedding, was even real anymore. Then, whispers about her husband's questionable loyalty and shady behavior began spreading like wildfire. Jim saw his opportunity, and instead of addressing it quietly or confronting Chrissy in private, he lit a match in public, and now the whole world is watching the fire burn. But what makes this even more explosive is how Jim framed the tape. He didn't present it as just proof of shady dealings. He called it the truth that everyone needed to see. That's what made fans instantly curious. Because for years, Jim has been painted as the problem in his relationship with Chrissy. Whether it was his hesitation to marry her, his involvement in industry beef, or the lifestyle choices that often clashed with her own goals, Jim was the one who usually caught the blame. But now, he's flipped the script. He's saying, "Nah, I wasn't the issue. Look at him. Look at what's really been going on." And the reactions have been all over the place. Some fans are praising Jim for finally standing up and airing out what he's been holding in for so long. They say the tape proves that Chrissy's been protecting someone who didn't deserve her loyalty. Others, however, think Jim went too far. They argue that exposing someone like this, especially with full video and audio receipts, is reckless, not just for Chrissy, but for their entire circle. Industry insiders have also chimed in. A few anonymous sources claim this move could backfire on Jim, making him look vindictive and petty rather than honest and justified. But others believe it's a power play, a way for Jim to reestablish dominance not just in his personal life, but in an industry where respect and reputation are everything. After all, in hip-hop, receipts talk louder than rumors. and Jim just provided the ultimate receipts. Meanwhile, Chrissy has stayed oddly quiet. And that silence speaks volumes. Fans are flooding her socials with comments, begging her to respond, asking her to explain whether she knew about what was on that tape, and questioning if she can continue standing by her husband after this level of exposure. Her refusal to speak, at least so far, has only fueled speculation. Some think she's in shock. Others believe she's plotting her next move carefully, because once she speaks, there's no going back. This situation also highlights a bigger pattern we've seen in hip-hop culture, the use of private tapes as weapons. From leaked phone calls to secret recordings, the industry has always had an underbelly of betrayal. But Jim Jones just escalated it to a new height. By calling it the final blow, he's essentially saying this isn't a back and forth anymore. It's checkmate. He's not leaving room for debate. He's ending it. And if that's true, then this tape isn't just a scandal. It's a career killer. But the real question remains, what happens now? Chrissy's husband's reputation may be in shambles, but what about Chrissy herself? She's caught in the middle of this storm, torn between her loyalty to Jim and the reality of the receipts that were just dropped. Fans are already speculating about whether this could finally be the breaking point in their long, complicated love story. Will she defend her husband and turn against Jim? Or will she finally admit that Jim was right all along? For now, all we know is that the internet can't stop talking. Memes are flying. Blogs are dissecting every second of the tape. Fans are debating loyalties in the comments. And Jim Jones? He's sitting back, watching the chaos unfold, knowing he just unleashed something that cannot be taken back. This isn't just another hip-hop scandal. This is personal. This is betrayal. This is the final blow. And if the first few hours of fallout are any indication, this tape is about to change everything for Chrissy, her husband, and Jim Jones himself. The fallout from Jim Jones' shocking move was only just beginning, but the way he executed this strike left fans and even longtime industry figures in absolute disbelief. Jim didn't just drop hints. He didn't throw shade in interviews, and he didn't play coy about what he had in his possession. Instead, he went all out, unleashing the full tape that he had teased before, and with it, he pulled the rug out from under Chrissy's husband in a way that even the most scandalous celebrity stories rarely reach. This wasn't just gossip. It was receipts, plain and raw, blasted out into the public domain for millions to consume. And the aftermath? It was like watching a domino effect that nobody could stop. When the tape first surfaced online, the reaction was immediate. Fans flooded X, TikTok, and Instagram with clips dissecting every second of the recording. Jim Jones had clearly known what he was doing, because this wasn't a half-cut snippet or an audio that could be brushed off as fake. The video and audio were crystal clear, with timestamps and undeniable context. It exposed private conversations, shady backdoor dealings, and behaviors from Chrissy's husband that left even his most loyal supporters speechless. What Jim dropped wasn't just scandalous, it was devastating. One of the most explosive parts of the tape revealed him discussing things in a way that suggested he had no loyalty, no respect, and no concern about who might get hurt in the process. Fans immediately labeled him as shady, toxic, and even dangerous in the comments. Some were stunned, saying, "If this is who he really is behind the scenes, Chrissy deserves way better." Others couldn't help but point out that Jim Jones seemed to have been waiting for the perfect moment to expose this truth, and now the timing couldn't have been more brutal. It came at a moment when Chrissy and her husband were trying to appear united, trying to present a strong image of their marriage, only for the facade to crumble in real time. The tape itself started spreading beyond social media gossip circles. Blogs picked it up immediately. Headline after headline blasted across entertainment sites. Jim Jones exposes Chrissy's husband with damning tape. Reputation in shambles after Jim Jones leak. By the time mainstream outlets started covering the story, it was too late for any kind of PR spin. Damage control was nearly impossible because the receipts were too clear. The internet was flooded with clips and breakdowns, reaction videos, and even legal analysts chiming in about the potential consequences of what was on that tape. And that's where things got even more interesting. This wasn't just a reputation hit. It was starting to look like it could have real legal and financial implications. Certain lines from the tape hinted at questionable deals, shady alliances, and actions that could very well put Chrissy's husband in hot water beyond just the court of public opinion. People began speculating whether investigators or lawyers might soon get involved, raising the stakes to an entirely new level. What Jim Jones did wasn't just expose a messy personal detail. He may have opened the door to consequences that go far deeper. Meanwhile, Chrissy herself became the center of the storm. Fans immediately wanted to know her reaction. Would she stand by her husband? Would she finally distance herself from him? Would this be the last straw? For years, she's been criticized by some as being too forgiving, too loyal to a man who doesn't always treat her right. But now, with the entire world watching this humiliating tape play out, she was under pressure like never before. People filled her comments with sympathy, advice, and sometimes harsh reality checks. Girl, run! You don't deserve this embarrassment. If you stay after this, it says everything. The public was demanding a response, and her silence only made things more intense. But while Chrissy kept quiet, her husband wasn't so reserved. Reports surfaced that he was furious at Jim Jones for releasing the tape, at the media for amplifying it, and even at Chrissy for not defending him quickly enough. Insiders claimed he felt betrayed, cornered, and humiliated. Instead of owning up or trying to fix things, he allegedly lashed out in private, blaming everyone but himself. This only added more fuel to the fire because people could see the signs. The deflection, the anger, the refusal to take responsibility. It painted a picture of someone who wasn't just guilty, but also unwilling to change. And then came Jim Jones himself, reveling in the chaos he had caused. He didn't hold back. On Instagram Live, he smirked and doubled down, telling his followers that he was tired of the lies, tired of the cover-ups, and tired of people pretending to be something they weren't. The truth always comes out, he declared, letting everyone know that this wasn't some random accident. He had deliberately chosen this moment to strike, and he made it clear he didn't regret a single thing. His confidence, his boldness, it sent shockwaves across the industry. Because love him or hate him, Jim had done something that most people would never dare. He burned every bridge and left no room for misunderstanding. This move also sparked heated debates among fans and insiders alike. Some praised Jim for exposing the truth, saying he was brave for not letting the lies continue. Others accused him of going too far, arguing that no matter how bad things were, airing private business in this way was ruthless and unnecessary. The hip-hop community was divided, with some siding with Jim and others warning that he had opened a door that could never be closed. Regardless of where people stood, one fact was undeniable. Jim Jones had shifted the entire narrative. The story was no longer about old rumors or speculation. It was about cold, hard proof and the destruction it caused. The ripple effect of the tape didn't just hit Chrissy's marriage. It began touching her career as well. Business partners started to pull back. Endorsements she and her husband were hoping to secure suddenly went quiet. The tape's content made some people hesitant to be associated with them, and doors that were once open began slamming shut. For Chrissy, this wasn't just about personal heartbreak. It was about her future in the public eye. She was now faced with the decision of whether to cling to a sinking ship or finally cut ties for the sake of her own survival. Behind the scenes, whispers suggested that Chrissy had broken down in tears more than once, questioning everything she thought she knew about her husband. Some claimed she confronted him directly, demanding explanations he couldn't give. Others said she reached out to close friends, leaning on them for advice and support. But whatever was happening privately, one thing was clear. Chrissy was now in the fight of her life, not just for her marriage, but for her reputation, her career, and her sense of self. And as the dust settled from Jim's nuclear drop, the question on everyone's mind was, what comes next? Would Chrissy's husband fight back legally, trying to sue Jim for defamation or invasion of privacy? Would Chrissy finally take the bold step of leaving him once and for all? Or would there be another twist, another revelation, waiting just around the corner? Because if history has taught us anything about these explosive sagas, it's that the first bombshell is rarely the last. Jim Jones had lit the match, but the fire was only just beginning to spread. The tension in New York's entertainment scene had already reached a fever pitch. But when Jim Jones finally released the full tape that everyone had been whispering about, it didn't just send shockwaves, it ignited a firestorm. This wasn't just another piece of gossip. This was a cultural earthquake. The recording exposed conversations and behaviors that Chrissy's husband had desperately tried to keep buried. It wasn't just damaging, it was devastating. The tape dropped late at night without warning. No teaser, no announcement, no coming soon. Just a sudden upload on multiple platforms. Within minutes, it began spreading like wildfire. Blogs picked it up, Twitter lit up, Instagram timelines flooded with clips, and YouTube commentary channels scrambled to get their hot takes out first. Jim Jones had executed this like a strategic bomb drop, calculated, ruthless, and impossible to ignore. And the content? It was raw. It wasn't edited to protect reputations or blurred to soften the blow. Jim Jones had chosen to go nuclear, making sure every word and every sound was heard clearly. The audio revealed Chrissy's husband engaging in conversations that contradicted his public image, exposing him as manipulative, two-faced, and, worst of all, directly tied to schemes that undermined not only Chrissy, but also Jim himself. This wasn't just about petty feuds anymore. This was character assassination, supported by receipts. The fallout was instant. Social media was flooded with clips dissecting every moment. Commentators paused the tape, rewound, analyzed tone, background noises, and context. Fans became amateur detectives overnight, piecing together details and connecting dots that hadn't even been clear when the tape first leaked. Hashtags like Tosh Chrissy's husband exposed, Jim Jones' final blow, and Tosh or Tapegate began trending worldwide. For the first time in years, Chrissy and her husband weren't trending because of their reality show presence, but because of a scandal that threatened to overshadow everything they'd built. Chrissy, who had always prided herself on being a fighter and standing tall through adversity, was left blindsided. In past situations, she had managed to spin things, turning drama into sympathy, reshaping the narrative in her favor. But this time was different. The audio didn't leave room for interpretation. The public wasn't just hearing about betrayal. They were hearing it in his own words, unfiltered and undeniable. Inside their circle, chaos broke out. Friends who had once pledged loyalty began distancing themselves. Business associates started cutting ties, not wanting their brands associated with the controversy. Even some longtime supporters online began to admit that the evidence was too damning to ignore. Suddenly, Chrissy and her husband weren't the couple people rooted for. They were the scandal people wanted to watch burn. And Jim Jones? He didn't say much. He didn't need to. The release of the tape was his statement. His silence afterward only added to the intensity. Every headline screamed his name. Every podcast wanted his perspective. But Jim kept his distance, letting the tape speak for itself. That restraint made the move even more powerful. He had positioned himself as the one who finally told the truth, while Chrissy's husband scrambled to explain himself. Damage control attempts came fast. Chrissy's husband issued a statement claiming the tape was taken out of context, and that Jim Jones had maliciously doctored the recording. But the public wasn't buying it. The audio was too clear, too consistent, and too believable. If anything, the denial only made things worse. Fans began mocking his excuses, creating memes and parody videos that further dragged his reputation through the mud. Meanwhile, Chrissy found herself in an impossible position. Does she stand by her husband, risking her own credibility and career? Or does she distance herself to protect her personal brand? For someone who had fought tooth and nail to prove her loyalty in the past, the pressure was unbearable. Sources close to her revealed that she was furious, not just at Jim Jones for dropping the tape, but at her husband for putting her in this humiliating position. Behind the scenes, legal teams began circling. Talks of defamation lawsuits surfaced, though experts quickly pointed out that suing Jim Jones would be nearly impossible if the tape was authentic. And if Chrissy's husband took Jim to court, that would mean the audio would be played in a legal setting, further cementing its legitimacy. In short, the tape wasn't just a PR problem, it was a potential career ender. But the biggest twist came when other figures in the industry started weighing in. Former collaborators of Chrissy's husband began hinting that they weren't surprised by what the tape revealed. Some even claimed they had their own stories, but had stayed quiet out of fear of backlash. Jim Jones's move didn't just expose one scandal. It opened the floodgates for others to come forward. Suddenly, Chrissy's husband wasn't just fighting Jim. He was facing an entire industry ready to expose him. The irony of it all was that Chrissy herself, who had once been praised for her fiery spirit and her ability to ride out storms, was now at risk of losing everything she'd worked for because of the man she stood beside. Fans who had once admired her loyalty were now urging her to walk away, calling her blind, complicit, and even a victim of her own pride. The sympathy she might have once received was slipping through her fingers as the public demanded accountability. And Jim? He remained untouchable. By releasing the full tape, he'd proven that he had nothing to hide, that he had receipts, and that he wasn't afraid to use them. Whether you agreed with his methods or not, you couldn't deny the impact. He had dropped the final blow, and it landed with precision. The streets buzzed with conversation. Barbershops debated whose side to take, podcasts dissected every frame, and fans argued online about whether Jim Jones had gone too far. But one thing was undeniable. Chrissy's husband's reputation was shattered, and no amount of spin could put it back together. By the end of the week, the scandal had grown beyond just entertainment gossip. Major news outlets picked up the story, framing it as a lesson in reputation management, loyalty, and the power of receipts in the digital age. What started as a feud had turned into a cautionary tale for anyone trying to maintain a double life, in an era where nothing stays hidden forever. Jim Jones didn't just win the battle, he won the war. The tape was the ultimate checkmate. Chrissy's husband had no moves left, and the world knew it. For fans, it was the drama of a lifetime. For Jim, it was vindication. For Chrissy, it was heartbreak. And for her husband, it was the end of a carefully crafted image. The full tape wasn't just content, it was history in the making. And no matter what happened next, one thing was clear. Jim Jones had delivered the final blow, and nothing would ever be the same again. And there you have it, y'all. The full tape has finally surfaced, and Jim Jones just sent shockwaves through the entire industry. Chrissy's husband's reputation is hanging by a thread, fans are going crazy online, and the fallout from this drama is only getting started. The question now is, what does this mean for Jim, Chrissy, and their future on Love and Hip Hop? And more importantly, how will Chrissy respond to this nuclear-level exposure? If you've been locked in, you already know this is one of the most explosive scandals we've seen in a long time, and it's far from over. The streets, the blogs, and social media are all watching closely. Now it's your turn. Do you think Jim went too far dropping this tape? Or was he justified in finally putting the truth out there? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because I want to hear what y'all think about this wild situation. And don't forget, if you enjoyed this breakdown, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss the next update. Because trust me, more receipts, more drama, and more shocking twists are coming. This is Celebrity Trap, and we'll be right here keeping you updated on every single move in this insane saga. Stay tuned.